Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Please be seated. Good morning. I think I heard this scripture from the Gospel this morning the first time probably back in 1992 or so when I was taking a class on the New Testament. Jesus says, "You will always have the poor, but you don't always have me." And since then I've wondered, what does he mean by this? Is Jesus encouraging us to just accept that about half the world lives in poverty? That there are 15 million children in the United States who live in poverty? That there's about 30% of the population of Springfield, Massachusetts, which lives in poverty? Is he encouraging us to accept that people go to sleep hungry? That they face life without the care of adequate mental or dental or physical self-support? That they face sleeping on streets and being trapped in this cycle? Is that all right for Jesus? Is it like how you just accept that in war there's always some collateral damage, and so one of the side effects that comes from some of us being middle class or upper class is that you're still going to have some people who are poor? Is that okay for Jesus? You know, Christian churches throughout the centuries have used this passage to justify building up incredibly huge and ornate cathedrals and temples dedicated to God. They have used this passage to justify paying their clergy and their staff exorbitant salaries, because you're always going to have the poor. In Tegucigalpa, Honduras, where I served as a missionary, there's a basilica dedicated to the patron saint of Honduras, Suyapa. And the Basilica of Suyapa, if you can imagine our space, is about 3 times as big as our cathedral, and it's polished marble with brass and gold, and there's a beautiful, absolutely beautiful high altar. And I took a picture once of the high altar, and right behind the high altar there was a door that was open. And through that door, in the picture, you can see the little teeny shacks that dot the hills around the basilica. These little shacks that are made literally of wood and mud, with no electricity, no running water, with tin roofs, sometimes with cardboard, with the poorest people you will ever meet. There in the juxtaposition between the cathedral, the basilica, and the poor. And it's interesting to realize that these two worlds exist in the same place, but it's also interesting to realize how they feed on each other. That without the poor there would be no basilica. And probably without the basilica, there may not be any poor. It's an interesting thing to consider. And it's not what Jesus suggested, to say that we will always have the poor. You know, Episcopal churches, we're not really always attuned to the needs of the poor. I have a friend who recently left his diocese to go to work at another church, and he said he was surprised to find that in front of their church they have a statue of homeless Jesus, just like we have on loan our statue of homeless Jesus, but their homeless Jesus is on a park bench as a permanent fixture. So when people walk by the cathedral, they see this homeless Jesus. And he said the ironic thing is that the church decided a few years ago that they would discontinue their ministry for the poor, and they used the money to buy the statue of the homeless Jesus. And Linda was there when he shared that story with us, so it's a true story. What is Jesus saying? It's okay not to support the poor? That we will accept poverty? That we will dismiss them? No. Jesus, of course, is not saying that. Jesus is not dismissive toward the needs of anyone. And when you look at who Jesus associated with, he was always with the poor. Rather, I think what Jesus is saying today is best summed up like this. You're always going to have some. It's always going to be some. If you notice the passage, it is not Jesus, but it is Judas who brings up the issue of the poor. It is Judas who complains because Mary is wiping Jesus' feet with this incredibly expensive oil. And Judas, the narrative of the author John tells us, he pulls us aside, which I love in the gospel. He pulls us aside and he says, look, Judas didn't care about the poor. Judas just wanted the money for himself because he kept the common purse. So Judas put out there the poor as an excuse. He put out there the poor, he threw them out there to say, you should not spend money on them, rather let me control the money. It's an excuse, and Jesus, of course, knows that it's an excuse. And so Jesus says, no more excuses, because there's always going to be something. I think the spiritual gift of this passage today is that it names there's always going to be something. And when you think of whatever it is you want out of your life, whatever your dreams are, whatever your hopes and goals are, whatever you've set before you as the path that you want to take and the vision that you want to fulfill, you have to realize that there's always going to be something that comes up and gets in your way. And that often these things are just excuses that we have. How many of us love a good excuse? How many people right around the middle of April can find any excuse at all to do something other than work on our taxes? How many of us say, today is not the day to start my diet? You know, Easter's coming in just a couple of weeks. Why would I start dieting now? We're going to go out to eat. Right, Mom? We're going out on Easter. We're going to have some candy. I can't start now. I'll wait till after Easter. But then, wait, Mother's Day is coming. We're going to go out to eat. I'll probably have some candy. It's not a good time. These excuses that we have. We are masters at justifying why we don't do things that we don't want to do. Just as we are masters at being pulled away from our dreams and visions, being pulled away from our goals, because we let the circumstances of life come and scatter them along the path. I want to do this, we say. I really want to do this. I really want to be doing that. But then here are the problem. Here's this problem I have. Here's this thing that's just come up in my life. And Jesus is right. There's always going to be something. And so when it comes to spirituality, the question that we are invited to ask today is this. What is the thing that is the excuse that we have for not being closer to Jesus? What's our excuse for not having Jesus today? For we will always have the poor, but we don't always have me, he says. Do we have him? And if not, what is the thing that has allowed to enter into our life in his place? If we don't have him, what is the thing that has come into our heart in his place? If we don't have him, what is the thing that is consuming our time in his place? As we've come into prayer, as we've come into church this morning, what do we have if we don't have Jesus? What excuse has come upon us? St. Teresa of Avila says, let nothing disturb you. Let nothing frighten you. The one who has God lacks nothing. God alone suffices. You're always going to have these circumstances of life which disturb and frighten you. And I think as I've thought about this passage, I think really at the heart of it is that what is Jesus is saying is that there will always be things, but the solution in our lives is not to focus on these things. The solution in our lives is to focus on Jesus. Focus on me, as he says today. He says these words, have me. I know he has us. I have no doubt in my mind that he has us, that he contains us, that he surrounds us with his love, that he cares for us so much, but we don't always have him. He's not in our awareness. He's not in our thoughts. He's not in our practice, at least not all the time. Therefore, he's not in our life, and that's part of why we suffer. It's part of why we let ourselves be blown by the winds of change and all the manifold things. What does it say in the Callard? All the manifold things of our lives that come upon us. Life is relentless. It's just one thing after another. We are never set. You know, when I moved here to Massachusetts, whenever that was, a long time ago, I first heard people say, oh, I'm all set. They didn't say that where I grew up, but what an interesting thing to think about, to say, I'm all set. How many of us are all set? How many of us will ever be all set in our life, where we are finally resting comfortably in peace with no problems coming down the pipe? That's never going to happen. You will always have the poor. Without the base, without Jesus Christ, without the God in our lives, what will we be able to do? How will we help the poor? How will we help ourselves? Without that base, we just move from fear to fear. We move from crisis to crisis. And I can tell you in my own life, when I don't have Jesus, that what happens is is I become anxious. I become devastated by these things that come along. They blow me about. I am lost. As opposed to those times when God and I are really good. When I feel like I'm aware of Him, nothing will trouble me. Nothing will frighten me, as St. Teresa says. I have an almost supernatural peace. You guys know that? Almost supernatural peace, which doesn't come from us, but it comes from God. Without that base of God, you look at the problems of poverty in Springfield. 30% as opposed to the Commonwealth, it's 14, 15%. You look at these things and you think, well, it's hopeless. And you're just stuck. You don't have the hope that things can change. But moreover, you don't have the confidence that you can be part of the change. Without that connection to God, you become like so many people today who are lacking compassion for the poor, who are unable to reach out to them in love because they themselves do not feel loved. The key to helping the poor, or helping the sick, or helping ourselves, to helping the addicted, to helping anyone in trouble, is to know that we ourselves have been helped by the God who loves us, by Jesus Christ. We share that. So as we wrap up Lent for one other year, the lingering question is always to ask, how are we with God? How are we with Jesus? Do we have Him, at least in our lives, in some way? And if we do not, what can we do to have Him more? And my suggestion always is to pray. If we are not praying regularly, why not? And I know my excuse is, I'm busy. I've got this cathedral to manage. How can I possibly pray? How many things are on our plate? What's your excuse for not praying? Why don't you spend more time? Why can't we get to church more? Why can't we read the Bible? If you don't have a Bible, we've got some extras. Why don't we have time to just let go? Why don't we let go? There will always be something. But you know what? Those Christians who built this cathedral, those Christians who fought to end slavery and end Jim Crow, those Christians who worked for women's suffrage, those Christians who struggled to end the wars of the world and establish civil rights and started the Catholic worker movement and feeding programs and services to those in need, they were also pretty busy people. They also had jobs and obligations and personal things to attend to, yet look at all we can do when Jesus is our base, without excuses, to focus on Him. And so in the end, thinking about Lent and thinking about our spiritual discipline and thinking about our lives, we have to ask, what will change us? Given that we have limited time, what will we focus our lives on? We can spend our days and our lives focusing on worry and anxiety and fear. Does that change us? Or does it change us and empower us and prepare us to spend 15 minutes a day in prayer, or reading the Bible, or in your garden, consciously thinking of God, or doing whatever it is, that deep and profound time with just you and God, 15 minutes, that is what will change the world.